Behöver du en bil? Mabe hyrbilar finns på över 150 platser i landet och vi har nästan lika många modeller att välja på. Mabe hyrbilar. Hyrbilar som passar dig.
Well, it's crunch time as we work our way through the playoffs, as 5 drivers will be eliminated from the championship race at the end of today's action here for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's playoff. We, of course, had the race 1 week ago with Michael Havlidsen locking himself into the round of 10, but there are still 9 other drivers to confirm, and we'll find that out tonight after 166 laps of action here at Richmond, and it is the Nice and Cuddly by Team Superior to round off the round of 15. It's myself, Cameron Roger, Justin Prince alongside me, and Dane Bed on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And of course, we're there on the right hand side of the screen, round 17. We started all the way back in August, and we've worked our way over North America to get to where we are today for some short track action. And it certainly is going to be the opposite of the title today. The Nice and Cuddly by Team Superior. Team Superior, of course, sponsoring this race, third one that they've done this season, and they still have Robert Ericsson in the mix. But of course, it's going to be very, very tight down there. The interesting thing that we've worked out is there's a 17-point gap between 10th and 11th. So the bottom 5, they really need a race win, or they need some major catastrophes to happen to the drivers just inside the bubble. And of course, the only driver locked in realistically is Michael Havlidsen, but of course, the top few drivers, Ericsson, Blix, Aronson, they are plenty of points away from the drop zone that they should be okay. But you never know what is going to happen when you get to some short track action. If we get some long green flag runs, then potentially some interesting things on the strategies. But if we get loads of cautions, then you've got to be making those decisions of when you pit very, very carefully. Indeed, it's going to be a very interesting one. Justin, I can't wait to see how we're going to go over this 166 laps today. What do you think we're going to see from the drivers in terms of how they attack this race? Because it's certainly and surely going to be a tricky race for those right on the bubble.
Well, they call it the action track for a reason, right? It's a track that brings a lot of intensity at it, but it also, we'll see today, it's a track that requires track position to do well, because it's so difficult to pass, not just because, well, it's a short track, because there's a big effect from the dirty air around the racetrack here at Richmond compared to the other short tracks on the platform with the next-gen car. You need to be able to find different lines to try and get good runs to get it to the inside to then, say, make a pass. But the major thing that comes to mind for this night race is going to be the name of the race itself kind of speaks to what many people hope it's going to go, but that's almost the opposite of what you expect from a short track. You usually expect tempers to flare and people to not be nice by the end of the night, because this is a track, as said, you need to use the bumper likely to move some people out of the way eventually.
Yeah, you certainly do, and it's going to get potentially a little bit desperate as well as the race progresses on, as the driver's just into the qualifying session at the moment. But if you start a little bit further back, or maybe you get caught out by a caution, you go to the back of the pack for whatever reason, you're going to have to work your way up towards the front. And the laps will go off very, very quickly here. Indeed, despite there being 166 there, we are on the bottom right hand of the screen. So 166 for the race, but a stage at lap 70. Of course, they have 5 tyre sets, but the fuel will go around 100 laps. So in theory, it's a one-stop race, but I'm sure we'll see quite a few more. And of course, the 80% fuel tank has been in for the whole season. I'm just spicing things up as we have these slightly shorter races in this series. And of course, we're mentioning as well Team Superior sponsoring the race, as we have seen quite a few teams and sponsors do throughout the season. So we do thank you, all those teams and sponsors, to be getting involved in the series. And we have plenty of names on the cars as well. And hopefully one of them, of course, will be very happy when they lift the championship in just a few weeks' time. As I mentioned at the end of today, 5 drivers get dropped. We have the round of 10 at Michigan and then Dover. And then, of course, as we see cars in the wall in qualifying. And, of course, we go to Homestead, Miami for the grand final, and we'll find our champion. But I wonder who is going to be up there at the front of the qualifying session, because it's, of course, going to be a very close qualifying session. Short track, not too many places where you can really gain or lose time. And as ever, the gaps will be small, as we all still see drivers pushing up to the wall to try and get the run and get up the front in qualifying.
Yeah, that is Flitti Johansson, who is trying to get some practice down, I think. Just trying to make sure they avoid one of the biggest mistakes you can make in a race like this tonight. Exit turn 2, there's 2 ways it can go. You spin off the bottom of the racetrack out of the corner, or you slide hard into the wall and then everyone runs into you. In the case of the 52, trying to make sure that neither of those things happen, because that is going to happen at least to it, probably 1 or 2 drivers. Now, in terms of the qualifying side, this is a track that's very delicate to be able to try and get a qualifying run in the first place, Cameron. If you're not comfortable on the brakes, and better yet, you're not in the know to be able to adjust things for the brake pads per se, as in the brake biases on the front and the back end, it could be a long night for you, especially if you go stock. It's a big difference between being able to enter the corner and be very spinny to start the race.
And that's what the drivers will have to balance up at what risk they take. And it's certainly looking very nice on the grid for some of these drivers. We've got all 4s front row with Aronson and Ericsson alongside each other. Then Michael Haflidsson, the winner of the previous race, and locked himself already into the round of 10 in 3rd. Gunnarsson will round out the top 4. Can he keep himself in contention, of course, going for his 2nd championship in a row? Broström and Blix round out your top 6. So all of the big names up towards the front. That is unlike what we saw last week, where it's a completely mixed up grid. Holmer and Hogman are in the 4th row, with Fredriksson, Uvenum, Uhrmann and Lundberg inside your top 12. Morgan Schott and Salander inside your top 14, with Kenneth Tier and Skoglund inside your top 16. Then Broström and Solo round out your front 9 rows. Helmbro, pole position driver this season twice, but is down there in P19. Zackerson in 20th, Bratberg 21, Johansson 22nd. Dennis Sherp, of course, team boss of Superior Top Dogs there, and of course sponsoring this race, and Erling in 24th place. And then just a couple of other drivers to round out the grid, which is Fagerl and Holmbaum down the bottom there in your 26th field. Will be coming to the green here at Richmond for the final race of the round of 15. And Justin, it's certainly nice to see all of the top drivers in the championship getting their qualifying runs in this time around. So they're going to start up the front, and now they just need to try and work together, especially with their teammates, to keep themselves up there.
Yeah, some teamwork to be able to coordinate some things might be somewhat helpful, but quite simply, it's a racetrack where to be able to make passes, it'll take about 10 laps per pass once the tires wear themselves in. So your keys to win essentially come down to this. Keep it clean, keep your tires underneath you, remain patient. If you want to try and win this race, you need to hit all 3 of those things, especially with a clean car. You can't win this race without your right front tire attached to the suspension.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be all about keeping it there. And the one thing I like about this format, as there's Dennis Sherp in the number 11, is despite the dominance of Jesper Eriksson, he's only coming into this race 8 points ahead of Linus Broström as well. So things can change very, very quickly here. And of course, Havlidsson is also technically leading because he's won the race, the previous race as well. So I wouldn't be surprised, Justin, if we see these, especially the top 5, 6 or so, be very different, and sort of really opening up the doors to a big fight in the final 3 races after this.
At a track like Richmond, it's an understatement to see what could potentially happen here. If anything, if you're amongst those drivers outside the playoff picture entering tonight, it go 1 or 2 ways. Your race can end for your championship fight in the first 50 laps because of an incident, or you end up waiting and trying to survive the chaos, have to clean this car yet, and in turn pick up a lot of points. There's a lot of ways you can approach this. We're about to see which drivers approach this race with the level of aggression expected by some, and others who try and follow the race name and try and keep it nice and calm to start.
Well, we're about to find out as the two Force Esports drivers are on the front row. They have the control at the start. Can they get themselves into a 1-2 position and control this first opening part of the race? We are expecting quite a few cautions, but how many will there be and when will it affect the pit stops as well? It's going to be a very interesting evening of racing here under the lights as the Nice and Cully by Team Superior gets underway, and Ericson from pole position will of course lead the way in towards turn number 1. He's got his teammate on his outside, but he's got quite a few rivals in behind with all of the Alcantech cars as they work their way through turn 2 now. It's looking very nice, but Ericsson already in the wall.
Able to keep it clean, though. That's the bright side. No major dive bombs. A bit of 3 wide at the heart of the pack, though. But 3 wide at Richmond. That is usually where you see some of the incidents today. And at a racetrack like this, keep that bottom line moving. Has to be the mindset for some of them. Others making sure, quite simply, they aren't the one pushed into the fence.
And there's already a couple of drivers running wide there through turn 4. The top 10 or so have got into a bit of a single file formation, but I'm sure we'll see that change quite a few times. And with it being the short track as well, and the sort of, not really tri-oval, but the ovalized section on the straight as well, you're almost always turning left. And there's Salander, I think, going up into the wall already, losing the rear end, keeps it somehow in a straight line. May have just slightly tapped the wall there, but we didn't get a caution. But what that might be a caution on the back straight. More carnage, more cars in the fence, but we remain green.
Surprise for green because you have Anton Ullman at the back of the field also still trying to work his way off the apron. Everybody else able to keep it clean. 2 packs have now formed up, though, because of that. Including, apparently, the driver who managed to break time and scored, Tony Bohlin, who's trying to be the bridge in all of that. Essentially, your top 9 are amongst those in the postseason with how things are looking so far. It's important to go back to that point I mentioned about the brake bias. For the default setup, if you just go straight up stock... Oh, trouble!
Oh.
One of the leaders in the wall.
That's a 37, yes, but Ericsson, he goes around, and that is a very awkward situation. He made contact as well. Maybe Eric Blake's one of the Alcantech cars getting involved there, and it brings out the first caution of the day, and it is one of the big names. He's lost the front bumper as well. That's going to be some repair time. He's going to be going to the back, and I was mentioning this earlier. He's only 8 points ahead of Linus Broström, and this could very easily change things in the championship, and it's already happened on lap 5.
And that is not what Ericsson needed. Already no front nose, somehow no meatball flag. There were more meatball flags from the initial wreck that didn't bring out a caution, apparently. But quite simply, this, I think, goes less to the brake bias point, but very much towards the point of you clip the apron at Richmond, Cam, you spin it around. And from what we've seen, Ericsson was getting mighty flirty with underneath that yellow line. You smack that apron, you then smack the wall. It quite simply sends you spinning.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of a jump there in terms of the angle and the gradient. Quite a few drivers coming down pit road as we go on to lap 7. And we have the 24 and the 81 leading the way. But it's the 37 who was in behind them in 3rd place, who unfortunately just got the... just got onto the apron there potentially, which caused the spin coming out of turn 2. And, of course, the contact with some other drivers. So we got Salander, Erling, Johansson, Ullman all into the pit lane as well. And that could certainly change things very, very quickly in this race. I'm trying to see exactly who he made contact with. I'm pretty sure it was one of the Alcantech cars, but none of them come down pit road.
Cedric Holmbohm, I believe, is already out of the race, and he didn't even make the start of this said race. So things are not looking great in the case of the 10 cam. But Anton Ullman, at the very least, I think just got the car fixed. But at least 2 or 3 of the Alcantech drivers, Cameron, in the span of the first 5 laps with significant damage. 2 of them basically coming from essentially self-incidents. That's going to be a bit frustrating, but it's also going to be a little bit of what to expect for a race like this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Watch the left side tires. Clips the apron. As soon as you clip the apron at Richmond, it destabilized the car. And around it goes, right in front of the field. Good job by most of the cars, though.
Yes, Dan Solo there. So it's the 13 Alcantech car in the middle of the pack. He's currently in P11. He was the one who made the contact. And Leeds Brewstrom, of course, the two of them at the top of the championship in terms of the points and almost making contact. So it was a 71 who avoided, but it was a 13 who could not avoid Jesper Eriksson. So they'll be continuing on with a little bit of front-end damage, I'm sure. Is it going to be enough to affect? We'll have to try and find out. But that just shows you how easily and how quickly things can change around. Jesper Eriksson in pit road again. Or still in pit road, I should say. And that is going to be a tough one if he wants to try and stay on this lead lap as well. Let's see this from Dan Solo's point of view coming through. Is he going to have any time to react? Or is there just going to be a car planted in the middle of the road? Yes, there is. He tries to go to the left, but just tags him and does a good job to save it as well.
Believe it or not, no visual damage. If anything, my concern would be if he's got damage to one of the tie rods. It could have been much worse for the 13 machine. But now, still in the heart of the field, I think the table has already been set and what to expect for tonight. Already a couple drivers played the fuel game in the back. I think we might see a lot of aggression continue, especially already seen a couple drivers with the issue on the brakes too, having the problems. For reference, the fixed setup as a whole, if you put just straight up fixed into it with the brake bias, that's 52%. At a track like Bristol, Cameron, just to make sure you weren't spinning, you had to put the iRacing fixed setup, I got the note of during the week, to 44%. If you didn't make that adjustment before getting in the car, you could have a very hard time. You can only adjust it another 3% forward to the front brakes.
And maybe that is what's caused a couple of issues, but we go back to green flag racing. Are they going to continue? Eriksson gets a great jump there from the pole, and he will continue the way in towards turn one with a huge lead indeed as the Alcantech cars in behind try and battle their way through as everyone tries to get down in towards a single file formation once more. Is anyone going to be running up into the wall? Looks like everyone has got through rather nicely, but some cars being shoved out wide.
Solid start once again here, but these drivers already showcased the tire heat going to be an issue, or better yet, lack of heat up some of these starts before the tires really settle their way in. These tires usually fall off a ton of the short tracks too. There's a reason the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, with its race on Tuesday, went 40 laps straight with incidents during the feature race. It's hard to settle on in, even early in the run, and especially late.
Certainly is, but this is the time where you need to have a good race, to be honest. If you're in a solid position, you just need to get through to the end of the race in a nice position. Don't worry necessarily about winning. But of course, we go back to caution as, we got cars around again. There's Hook and Shot with missing the front wing. A couple of other cars stopped on the back straight coming towards turn 3 as we only got about a lap and a half of action under green.
Remember the point I mentioned? You either get loose aggressively to the inside out of turn 2 or you smack the wall. I believe the 39 might have gotten the loose variety, and here's the problem when you're alongside cars here at Richmond. If you get loose and somebody's to your inside, the walls work like a funnel cam. And what happens when you crash in a funnel? Nowhere to go, and you end up causing calamity straight away.
There's just no room on tracks like this, is there, to move out of the way. We saw that with Dan Solo as well, just an example on the previous caution, but we have the second caution of the night as we now go to lap 15 of the race. Got loads of drivers in pit lane. We've got Slander, Erling, Fagrel, Skoglund, Zachrison, Hogan Shot, and Kenneth Tier all into the pit lane as Anton Uhrmann is also out the track, but he's a lap down from the previous incident. So Johansson's got back ahead of all these drivers up in 17th place, but are we going to see this continue throughout the race? Is it going to be one of those nights we just have to stay calm? Let's see this on the replay.
Yeah, watch this from the 39. It's one of those already in the pit lane, as you mentioned. Yeah, just way up out of the groove, gets loose. And for a lot of these drivers, hard on the brakes for many. And even that was not enough for a couple. Some nearly floored it into it.
Was that the 11 of Dennis Sherp? He did really well to avoid any contact there. Good job from him, because it's very easy to overrun those things and go straight into the back of someone who's having an incident, but it seems like he managed to get away with that, which is rather nice indeed. So some drivers are keeping on the lookout, but it's certainly not an easy one indeed. And yeah, just for the crash itself with Zackerson, as you say, you just get a loose and you just have no room down to the inside. There's already a car there. Then you start ping-ponging left and right, and it all goes wrong.
You have to be smart in these types of scenarios, right? If you push too hard, if you don't have the practice down, if you don't get the right line down, it can cause absolute calamity. Here's Kenneth Tier you were talking about a bit. 49, hard on the binders, already drifting a little bit. Just has to point the nose where there's a gap and then hope no other cars fill said gap. It is tight and it is not safe.
That's such a shame. He's doing such a good job to try and avoid that, but then unfortunately the one-on-one just comes down spinning in front of you. Not a lot that you can do in that situation. You can't just disappear and you can't just stop on a dime either. It's yeah, just an awkward situation to be in. But what is left is the top yeah, sort of 4 or 5 or so. They've really been in that same order since the first lap. After the initial start, but of course they'll have to go back racing once more and try and get back into that single file. But the 24 has led all of the laps so far from that pole position, although he's got the 81 who's coming stronger and stronger this season right on the back of him. Let's see this once again from the 101. Gets off onto the right, then comes down hard into the 49 there. Big contact, and that's why he's still in pit road now.
Yeah, he's also picked up black flag with the amount of time sensor to close pit lane so far. So Tier and Sean got some of the biggest damage from that. Gonna need some cautions to get back into the ball game, as some would say. But talking about Eracingligan up at the front, this is the safest place you could be. Be in the first and second spots. If you're outside the top 4, that usually is a trend of where things get a little bit too antsy to the point where you risk damage. Not a surprise we haven't seen the leaders duck down unless they've crashed so far.
The last short track we were at, the doubleheader in North Wilkes, guess who won that first race where it was stay green the whole time? It was Aracingligan, of course, and he brings us back to green flag once again. The nice and cuddly by Team Superior has been very aggressive so far, as not so nice as the title suggests. Coming off turn 2, we go back to green flag racing, and it looks like we're side by side, about 4 rows deep, coming in towards turn 3 and 4, but the battling will continue.
Yeah, that outside line offers the opportunity to be able to pinch on down. We've just seen Winton Fullerson doing the same on his teammate Nick Gunnarsson. A lot of these others in the heart of the field, though, trying to see if they can get that to work before it becomes bottom dominant. Eric Lundberg especially seems to be almost forced to try and get that line to work in one of his Chevys.
Someone I see just on the back of that top groove there. Is that Jesper Eriksson still going on without the front bump on the car, but he seems to be holding some good pace. The driver's right in the wall there, coming across the stripe. And yes, he is. He's still out there without the front bumper. I wonder if he's got enough pace in that to hold on to this lead pack, because if he does, he still has half a chance in this race, because we all know how things can go very nicely indeed if you work your way up. There is Linus Brewster on the inside for Bright Esports. I think he's actually just gone back a position as he tries to battle with Tony Uvenen, who had a very good run last time out, but I think Tony might just have him on the outside, but as ever on the brakes, the inside line holds strong.
This is where it's going to get tricky as the day goes on and as the night progresses on the racetrack. It takes a lot of patience to be able to get the move right. You might have to get a bit of the elbows out, try and use a touch bit of a late arc into the entry, force the driver above you to stop pinching down so you can get the run. Or you can dive bomb it and nearly crash. That is Linus Brostrom saying, let's go pokey poke, and now let's go dory door.
Oh yeah, rubbing up against each other on the exit of 2 there and into 3. Actually, the 84 should have him there. We'll be able to come down as there's Hawkins shots. Oh, in the background though, is that the 13 going around? Is that going to bring out another caution? Yes, he does. And further contact was made as there's a couple of bumpers out there on the track. And it is now the 13 of Solo who has contact once more in this race.
Yeah, there was a lot of chatter just sparking up on the radio around that time because Michael Haflidason got doored by a canned shot after the pit lane. And that is exactly just a couple of car lengths ahead of where the incident happened. It's almost like everybody's seen the lap car started panicking. You'd have to think for what we're about to see on the replay. And then said, I can't run the outside. That's where the 101 may or may not be here. The problem is that is usually where we see big stack-ups is miscommunications, where some drivers know that info and others don't.
And unfortunately, it does come down to some body language and some just general racecraft. Let's see this though, coming through 3 and 4. Bit of contact actually.
Right,
was it Ericsson? Yeah, I think it was Ericsson just nudging the back of the 13, and then big hit there from Bjorn Broström coming in, and unfortunately nowhere to go once again. But yeah, I think it was the 37 just tagging the back, and that could be very interesting if we end up with penalties and such post-race. Already having a difficult race is the 37. Are things going to be changing and swinging around in this championship?
I find it intriguing, though, in a situation like that, you have Ericsson bumping, running without a front bumper. But he had been somehow, despite that, flying to the pack. And the last time I ever seen that was from a Coke Series driver, Michael Conti, in an official series race in NIS once, where he lost the front bumper and gained speed. Now, the reason for that, let's just say setup magic is very much still a thing, and at that time, he found a way to go faster with damage. But others, like for Bjorn, you're not going anywhere with the damage he picked up. That is a meatball flag. Yeah,
that was a big hit on the front of his machine. So, unfortunately, he's going to be going down. That is the 41 of Bjorn Broström. Let's see this once again, a little bit further back. And yeah, you can see he kind of thought about it, but he wasn't 100% sure exactly where that car was, and just not able to avoid it in time. And he will be going back. Hawkenshot is in the pit lane as well, goes 4 laps down, unfortunately for him. As we go on to lap 37 of 166. Stage will come at lap 70, but as ever in this championship, we stay green flag racing through the stage. But I wonder if we will actually be green flag with the amount of cautions that we've had. But I guess, Justin, this is what short track racing is, especially in the playoffs.
High intensity, high pressure to go. High pressure to recover immediately from incidents. As I said during the broadcast for the B Open SOF this week here at Richmond. First of all, did you just fall down a staircase?
Sorry, did you hear? I dropped my phone. Sorry. I was moving it and it fell off my desk.
I've lost my train of thought from that. Okay, outside of that, I was about to say, there's a sense in, as of late on the short track side for iRacing, where you always get the sense that every position is worth $1,000. You need to make passes now to be able to get $1,000 more. What does that actually mean? Nothing. You don't get the thousands of dollars, but that's the mindset.
Yeah, that's always an interesting one where you have that direct reward for getting the position, but of course most of the time you go for the position, you actually make a mistake or you crash, and then you go back and you actually lose more positions. But the competitive nature doesn't always think of those things. It's very difficult to hold on to that, and especially as a driver when you're in the race, you just want to go for every single position anyway. The person in front of you is beating you currently, and racers don't like losing, so you have to go and beat them individually. So we come back to side by side, and we'll be going on to lap 30 as we get the nice and cuddly by Team Superior underway once more. We've got a few cars of damage out there, and it's only lap 30. Let's see how this one goes. The 24 takes us away for another time, and we'll continue to lead on with this race. But in behind, this is where we need to find out all the positions. 3 Alcantech cars working their way through turns 1 and 2, as all the drivers are continuing their way on side by side. A little bit further back, already rubbing up a little bit towards the wall, was the 81.
You're just trying to get the run on the outside, and Eric Blix getting a lot of freedom and space from his teammates here. Able to quickly zip on by. That's what I talked about early on. You can get the outside lane moving on the restarts and the starts because you're able to just pinch down, force the driver beneath the lift. After a few laps, though, we've already seen tonight. Bottom line, the dominant line to make passes. It's the shorter distance around, especially with how much you're sliding those tires. And we have Dorian already.
We certainly do. Everyone's going for these positions when they get the opportunity. The top 2 starting to pull away by a few car lengths, but in behind it is still going off. As always, you would expect. We've got Linus Broström with 3 cars wide in front of him as Uvenen, Lundberg, Holmer all try and file their way through. As Lundberg dives into the inside, might be able to just hold that. Actually, no, gets a bit of a bad run actually. There's going to be Uvenen coming to his outside around in towards turn number 1. Can he hold it there, or will once more the inside line be be good. And I think it is for Holmer, of course, 2-time race winner this season.
Oh, there's a bit of some trouble back there, though. Looks like one of the yellow and pink machines checked up hard with Ericsson. Ericsson had to back out from 3 wide because Lundberg had a bad corner exit at the bottom of that racetrack. It's getting a little bit too dicey here. I'm still surprised in the speed from Ericsson, but I'm also not. After all, the more cautions we get, the more of Eric Lundberg's machine, or rather I should say, for Jesper Ericsson, he's going to get his car back to full strength.
Yeah, certainly will. He'll just repair it bit by bit as the race goes on. And someone who's looking a little bit wobbly at the moment is Linus Broström. Just had quite a big one. He's lost a car length to even and up ahead, and it's just choking up Lundberg a little bit. But of course, these things change corner by corner, just wiggling to the inside as well to try and stop the 37, diving it to the inside. But it just shows you how on the limit they are. Just the tiniest wiggle, the tiniest bit that you struggle on the brakes or the power, and then you'll be losing a position. Here comes the 37 up the inside of Lundberg. The 71 dives it down to the inside to hold on. So Lundberg tries to repay the favour around the outside. But I think the 37 should have it at least on the inside here of 3 and 4. But will he have to spend a couple of laps to get this move done?
I think that might be the case because you'd have to, in theory, think he's going to be a bit down on the straight line speed. The cornering speed seems to be the major strength for Ericsson. And that's not a surprise knowing the road course repertoire. And a track like Richmond, if you're good on braking, like we see at Martinsville Speedway, for example, too, usually trends to be solid for those who are good under braking at road courses. There's the pass.
Absolutely manages to get it done. Had to spend 3 or 4 laps doing it, but he's made it stick. Now he's going to be chasing down his championship rival of Linus Broström, who's just 8 points behind him coming into this race. And we are already about halfway through this stage at lap 70. As we continue our way on, we are expecting the fuel to go 100 laps or probably more with the cautions that we've had. So the time for the pit stops might be coming in another 20 laps or so for those drivers who want to risk it and go to the end. But of course, you never know how many more cautions, etc. there is going to be. So you just have to play out with what you've got in front of you. And the 37 is doing that rather nicely. Considering he had the crash, he's still up there in 9th place.
Yeah. Meanwhile, up front, though, Fliddison's doing Michael Fliddison things. Slowly getting faster and faster. He's up to a 1/10 of a second quicker the past couple laps. 2/100ths quicker the past 5 on the average. Seems to be just getting a lot better rotation to be able to get to the bottom of the corner and be able to get the shorter distance around. That edge is slowly bringing him back to the conversation.
And what a sort of last few races he's having as he's got the run. He managed to finally get a couple of race wins at the end of the regular season after struggling in the first half, and he's brought himself back in contention for this championship, and he's doing such a great job because even though he's obviously got the win, he's locked himself inside the top 10, he would be 3rd place on the points as well. So he's doing a really good job and trying to chase down the 24, who's having a slightly inconsistent season as well, but also a fierce competitor up the front. Yeah,
with Fliddison, we've seen in a lot of series. After all, his main Achilles heel, I will argue, Cameron, has been he's got a trend. We've seen him where he's had in the past a lot of races starting towards the back, makes to mid-pack, has an incident, sets him back, recovers to mid-pack, time penalty on the road course side. But on the oval side, he's kind of showcased you keep it clean. When he's able to keep it calm and not hit the wall down the front straightaway, he's able to just keep it dialed in and shows the raw speed he has as a driver. This is looking very solid as a run right now. We'll see how long he can make this last.
Yeah, he's putting a lot of pressure on the 24, and this is the style of racing that isn't necessarily the most exciting because it's not side by side, but if you just watch how he's coming into these corners, he's getting closer and closer, and Arason will be looking in his mirror, be looking at the relative overlay, and he's just seeing every 1,000th of a second that Hafliton gets closer or further away, and they're trying to go on the limit of the brakes every single time. And it is really interesting to see the drivers fighting. You see the 81 there, he is moving around quite a bit more than the 24, so maybe he's really pushing to try and keep up, and the 24 is just looking a bit calmer.
24, if anything, has a lot more cleaner air, and that is a big difference. The thing is, that's going to reduce a bit because the traffic, this is also going to be a major part of tonight. Once you reach lap traffic, Are you going to be able to get by quickly and cleanly? Looks like Woodison able to handle the first few cars here a little bit better than Eraldson because he's used to the dirty air. Eraldson is not.
Yeah, that's true. When you're sitting there for so many laps, you get the feeling, you get the rhythm going. Varudson, all of a sudden he gets hit with it and he's like, oh, there goes the balance, and he has to try and work it out. But of course, I guess it depends where you meet the traffic on the track as well and how nice they are at getting out the way or not, as the case may seem sometimes. But the 24 is leading very, very nicely indeed here on lap 48 as we're slowly coming up towards third race distance. Of course, closing in on that stage, and this is something that we've seen quite a few of the drivers do actually over the course of the season. They've tried to sort of get the stage points more so than going for the victory, and that could be very, very important for these drivers as they try and chase up. As all Dennis Sherp there, huge slide coming through turn 3 and 4. I wasn't quite expecting that, but I managed to save it nicely.
Yeah, that was towards the 17th position at the time. Seen that at the corner of my eye when it happened there. He nearly hit that tire barrier. And again, if you end up getting loose in the corner like that, it's hard to save it. He is extremely lucky he was able to jab the brakes in time. Any later, he's hitting the barrier, and we would have been under caution by this point.
That was very close to the water cans there. And he continues on in this race. As we see this battle, this is the mid-pack of the top 10. So that's Linus Brewstrom there in the middle of the shot in the 71, currently in 8th place. Got Jesper Eriksson behind him and Tony Uvenen up ahead as they've continued their battle, but they've stayed rather stable actually. They've got Lundberg in behind, has stayed like this for quite a few laps, so no one going for the moves at this point. So they've got Hogshot, the 101. He's the car lap down, going past all these drivers. And he's going to be struggling from this point to the end of the race if he just keeps on getting lapped, because he's already 5 laps off the lead.
Yeah, at this point for Hakan, I think his chances have already sailed for the win. It's just try and take whatever points you may get, go from there. Here's the worry at this point going to be, how much ground does he end up losing from a race like this? That's still up in the air, because all it takes is someone like Marcus Hagman, as well as a combination, say, Oscar Fredriksson, to do massively better. It's going to be difficult, though, because I think even with the point differential, you're talking about someone like Marcus Hagman compared to that needing to essentially be up 20 spots. That's a top 5 run in this field size tonight.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's tough, but you never know what is going to happen later on in the race. So you always have to just keep going. It's funny though, we were mentioning this with Linus just before we came on. He always comes in, just give us a couple of little tips of what to expect in the race, and he was saying, you know, as you normally expect, even with the only 2 races in each of the stages of the playoffs, you'd expect only a couple of positions, a couple of points to be the difference, but we have 17 points difference between 10th and 11th, so there's a lot to swap around for any big, so there's going to be a lot of big movers rather than just individual places tonight.
There is one thing, though, that is going to be the worry if you're Hakan right now, is Oscar Fredriksson, because you see in that pylon, he's top 5. He's the highest of those below the cut line. All it takes is him getting the victory, and you take Fredriksson, put him top of the board. If Hakan's shot is lower than Ullman and Homer looks to be the case before the end of the night, panic time. Look at this viewpoint for Dennis Sherp again, though, because he got loose on his own. This is how close it was to race ender and save of the season. An inch and a half.
Miles away. So much room. No, that was really good. That was really good to save that. I'm not sure if that was complete skill or a bit of luck as well, but either way, he managed to do it, and he continues on in the race. That is sponsoring, of course, the Nice and Cuddly by Team Superior. You'll see with that wonderful light blue and orange livery out there on the track. It's a 71 a little bit wider, a little bit deep, coming in towards turn 3, but nothing too major at this point in the race, as there is the Team Superior for the Superior Top Dogs variant of their team, and he's continuing on in P21 at this moment in time with one of the best beards in sim racing.
It just keeping calm with his multiple different rims around him. He has the stock car rim. A lot of the direct drive wheels these days, after all, have that quick release. I believe you see that red button right there. You turn that, unscrew a couple bolts, peel back the quick release, put on the new wheel, screw everything back in. You're good to go with a complete wheel swap with the same button configurations in theory to your preferences. Seems extremely dialed in. The downside for how his race is going, though, is he's at risk of being lapped right now in the race his team sponsors here. Right now, looking at the pace difference, 22.9s. The leaders are running up to a tenth of a second quicker, and already he's the last on the lead lap.
And that is always the biggest thing in these races, isn't it? Especially when you have so many laps like this. It's all about staying on the lead lap. It's difficult to do so, though, on these short tracks, only being 0.75 miles, as that is Linus Broström starting to look on the back of Tony Uvinen in the 84, who's the highest non-playoff driver, who, if you haven't worked out by now on the tower, it is the blue names are the playoff drivers. Tony Uvinen there in the 84 in his own entry. The Tony Uvinen entry has got a name on the side of the car, but he is really showing his speed in the last couple of races. Linus Broström there getting potentially held up just a little bit there, not working his way through T1 and 2 nicely, and just losing a little bit of momentum there onto the backstretch.
Uvinen, the highest out of those you mentioned, not in the playoffs. I think it's been a very solid race for him. No controversy so far. No major contacts. Already coming to 6 laps to go in the stage. He's just been picking up drivers as much as possible. Now, it is major to consider here. One, Haflidason started to fall off all of a sudden. But two, right now, looking at a lot of these drivers on pace, this is around the time where, especially at the eNASCAR level, there's a lot of talk about dirty air making it tricky to make passes. We're at that point where it's going to take a massive difference in speed to make a pass, and a lot of these drivers are struggling to pressurize.
And they certainly will, but they'll be looking for the stage, which is coming up in just a few laps' time. Lap 70, we will give those extra points, and of course 10 for the winner. Going down 1 point per position until P10 for just the singular point, and is looking like Ericsson will be picking that up because he's managed to pull away from Haflidason, and I wonder if that's just because the 81 sat in that dirty air for too long. We've seen him really struggling and wiggling around, and now he's dropped off the back.
I'm keeping an eye on that with the 81 in the backdrop, and one thing I've noticed is he's been drifting a lot corner exit. And one thing about the tire management, pack or no pack, is if you are burning that right rear up too much, trying to get some of these sends down based on your bias level, and as well based on your driving style level, Cam, that's where you end up getting snap loose around this point of the run. We're technically 50 laps into a green flag run. That's around usually the time you see drivers start to get snapped loose if they've destroyed the right rear for the end of this run.
And they've got to be careful because the fuel is going to still go another 30, 40 laps by this point. But of course, they'll need to wait for the right time to come into the pit lane. We are in the window to pit now and have fuel to the end of the tyres, to the end of the race, I should say. But then it all depends with the tyres and with potential further cautions. As here's the 24 trying to put a lap there on the number 11 that we were just watching. So Dennis Scherp goes a lap down. There's now just the top 20 on the lead lap, but we are on lap 70. And coming round the final couple of corners, it is going to be the 24 to take the stage and an extra 10 points as we work our way towards the round of 10. And that's going to help him very nicely indeed. Can he go on, though, to take the victory later tonight?
Very dominating race so far for the 24. I think you can pencil in as a very likely, if it stays the race it's the way it's going. Haflidason, Blixt, Gunnarsson, Fredriksson, Homer, Broström, Uvinen, Eriksson, Lundberg picking up critical points. I think especially for Fredriksson, because that reduces that pressure a little bit in theory compared to need to catch up to Ken Schott, who I currently pencil in as the 15th driver or so. Going to be a lot more easier for the 112 from here, but he still would like the win, obviously.
That would be, as you know, as you were explaining, that would be such a big change to things to go from 14th, being 23 points off the cut line coming into this and then going on and winning, that just changes things. And then I do love it with the fact that you're saying that would bring someone who's focusing on not just beating Fredriksson as such, obviously, because you can't if he's winning the race, but then you're just trying to beat someone else out there on the track, trying to get to be in that P10. It is going to be a very tricky one indeed, as we're seeing. There's a Blixt in the 95 go up the inside of the 81, who's continuing to struggle as this stint goes on, and he really is losing some time now as he's 2.5 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, those tires are done. That right rear tire specifically is done. You can see with just the amount of bobbles he's currently dealing with, even coming out of the corners, just trying to gas it up. And that's the frustrating part, is there's not much he can do. He's right now even trying the different lines to see if that's going to counter things, but there's a risk with the line he's taking with the next-gen car. It's not like, say, the Grand National or the truck, where you end up getting snappy because of that line coming off corner exit, because that little dip.
And he just had another huge slide there off 4. But the difficult part is he can't pit. Surely he can't pit under green. Everyone's just waiting for the next caution to come in. So he's just got to stay out there and just hope that he doesn't lose so many positions and so much time, as he's going to get another teammate there. There's the number 1 of Gunnarsson coming up the inside and taking away that 3rd position. So the floodgates are open for the 81. Fortunately, they do have some seconds in behind, although that will very easily come down at the rate that he's losing.
You're right about not pitting under green. That's the major thing, Cam, because you're losing maybe up to 2 laps if you come down to pit lane at Richmond. Possibly 3. But it depends on where you are relative to the leader. If you're amongst the top 5, you might get a lap down. However, the major thing to emphasize, if there's a caution, you have to press the panic button. And Marcus Hagman just pressed the pit now button. He is pitting.
That is a very interesting one, but for a driver who's outside of the cut line in P11, 17 points off, he is one of those drivers who needs to try something. So he'll be fueled up to the end, but how are the tyres going to play out with all the cautions potentially later in the race? We will have to see, as there's Linus Brustrom also coming down pit road in the 37 of Ericsson in behind. So the time has opened up, the pit lane has opened up for these drivers who want to try something, who pit under green.
It's an interesting call, but when you mathematically think about it, Cam, it's near halfway. It makes sense to the math test. And this race is now to its longest green flag run of the day at more than 50 laps already. A lot of these drivers are thinking, maybe it's time to play the under. We're not going to get more cautions after all. We're talking things over before today. Some of the team side were estimating up to 12 cautions, some as many as 20. We've only had, what, 3?
Certainly, but I think it's one of those things, if you get into a good rhythm and you end up with a long green flag running, then maybe, just maybe, it'll be quite long. But the second one person spins on these old tyres, or someone just runs up a little bit wide during a battle because they're, again, running out of tyres, then things can change very, very quickly. And for those pitting now, they're going to be keeping those laps down. So it could certainly go very wrong very quickly, but let's see how this one works out. We've got Havlitzen into the pit lane. No surprise with that. He's got his teammates Salander, Dennis Sherp has also come in as well, as we're getting to that halfway stage in this race. The nice and cuddly by Team Superior, but we still have the 24 out leading strong.
Still keeping an eye, though, on how a lot of these drivers are going to go. Havlitzen, as you just said, just ducked into that pit stall. Have to try something different in theory if that's what's going on right now with how far back he's driven from the race lead. For Erlson and many others, though, big advantage, just keep driving. Big advantage if you're Fredriksson to just try and save. For others like Ericsson and company, it's a long shot. But if the shot works, I don't think it's a winning move, Cam, because the tire fall-off difference already being up to a second or so across the field. It's going to be hard to defend later in the race for those drivers, but it is a shot to try and do something different.
Certainly is, but therefore with the tyre difference, those who are getting this so-called undercut, they're going to be gaining time as well now. So it is a bit of a seesaw, and if we stay green, then of course the advantage will slip away from them later. But certainly they need to try something, because I mean, if we stay green flag to the end, they weren't going to be winning the race, because Ericsson at the front, Eric Blix as well, they're looking so strong. You're not going to be running up, from P8, P9 like these drivers on screen were. So they had to do something, and I think it makes sense that the 37 followed as well, as there's the number 4 with Helmbro just coming up the inside, and the 77 machine going through in that 8th place, as the number 4 is down there in P15, 1 lap down, and that could be very, very crucial, because we only have 10 drivers on the lead lap already.
It's a critical time. Depending on when Ericson comes on in, the more this run continues, the more potential of a caution brings to chaos, because anyone who's pit has already run 10, maybe 15 laps on the tires just about. That's not going to be easy to stay out on a wave around and hope to stay on the lead lap if he goes an hour-long run. The longer this goes, and the longer the leaders stay out, the more bit of anxiety has to peak up just a little bit. But for drivers like Helmbro, for Zackerson, for Robert Erling, for Fredrickson, for Uvinen, I think this is the only shot you've got to be able to get a top 10 in some of these cases now, because you've made your bed. And at the same time, you need a caution, so you're in front of those rest of the drivers the rest of the way.
So hard when your strategy is relying on a caution potentially, but it's worth the risk around a short track, that is for sure. But it's certainly not a certainty either, as we see Lundberg there had a little bit of a look up the inside of Uvinen as they still battle their way inside the top 10, who these drivers are all inside the top 10, of course, not stopping just yet. In the background, there's the 81 having some wiggles. Huge send down the inside for the 18. He tried this last time around. The 81's almost driving around them with, look how much more grip he's got there since making his pit stop, as the 81's going to dive up the inside, of course, laps down, but basically just driving straight past him with the grip. That's going to go very tight, 3 wide. The 84, can he save it? Yes, he can, after the contacts being made, but Lundberg is going to have to try even more to get this done.
Yeah, that was not the smartest of moves, but you can see the idea. Keep the battle going. Don't allow him to go single file and have to restart again. Here's the thing, Lundberg, I don't think has the pace he needs to make this pass. That's why I think he just said, you know what? I'm just going to ride.
Look where the 81 is, absolutely gone away. Fresh tyres are strong around here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see green flag pit stops for all those still out there. There's going to be a big undercut for those who've already made the pit stop, because the 81 is making moves on the track, and of course currently down in P14. So Brewster and Ericsson are in behind on the on the same lap as such as Hafliton, just on the very background of shot, just about to see it. So the back straightaway is only the gap between them, and this is a nice little battle that we're doing. We're seeing here as all the ride to the wall, and the exit of 4 really pushing to try and gain that time. He's got a bit of free air here as well. Just needs to use these tyres to close that gap down.
I think part why he's pushing too is he needs to pass one of his teammates and also Jonas Skoglund to be able to make sure if there's a caution, he gets the lucky dog. If he passes those two, doesn't matter. He can get fresh tires if there's a spin. Just has to do it cleanly. Now, it's going to be a little bit close. I think he's needing 5-6 laps maybe to be able to get at least a lucky dog spot with the pace things are settling in.
But he's working his way towards it as we're coming up towards lap 100. So there's about 70 laps to go in this race. The nice cuddly by Team Superior. And we're on board with the number 81, Michael Havlicek for the Alcantech NHR by MW Race Consulting. And what an entry this has been so far this season. He won the previous round, and he is trying to go and make it 2 in a row and win. In the interview last week or 2 weeks ago, he said he basically just wants to win all of the races to the end of the season. Of course, every driver wants to, but he's very determined to do so, as he's got one of his teammates there. That's the number 1 machine, who's still out there in that 3rd place. Remember, we saw this in reverse just a few laps ago, but the pit stop has brought the 81 back into this as he gets himself up past his teammates, Solo as well. So he is now in the lucky dog position.
And just as he got in that position, guess who just called pit stop time? Everybody else in the lead group, lap 100 this time by. Ericson got reeled in quickly by Blixt all of a sudden. Blixt just dived in and caught him on the pit entry by 3/10.
That could be crucial in their battle, because there's about 2.5-3 second gap at one point. But look at that, just a car length separates the two leaders. Will they still be leading when this pit stop ends, or will someone like Haflidsson have made up so much time on those fresher tyres that he's done the big undercut? Of course, the difference is he's now done 20 laps on those tyres, and he will be a bit slower to the end of the race, especially if we see green flag all the way to the end. So it was about 100 laps that we were expecting, but then, of course, we're short of pit stop for those in the pit lane right now. They'll take a bit less fuel, so it's interesting games going back and forward.
Well, regardless, it gets everybody to the end on gas. Those are coming in, and for many of these drivers, definitely tire sets available if there's an air caution. Ericson, it's not in a bad spot at all, though, after the pit cycle, just behind Marcus Hageman, who started the window. I think pretty quickly Ericson can get his lead lap back at least compared to the 81. He just needs laps, quite simply, to be able to do it the natural way.
Yeah, so Haflidsson is miles up the road, isn't he? So very interesting what we're going to see here, the battle to and fro to the end of the race. We've had such a long green flag run now. It does make you wonder if we will go all the way to the end. We did see this back at North Wilkes as well. We were able at some short tracks to go very, very fast indeed, although the 24 there, I thought it was going to be blocked off a little bit by the car on the inside, but was able to avoid that one. And now the speed is coming back for the driver who was leading this race. Oh, who's that spinning? Is that going to bring out a caution here on lap 104? I think the Team Superior car managed to save it, but that could have changed things.
Not sure which car you're looking towards there on the racetrack, but we do have a slow one. Yes, it's Dennis Sharp. Dennis Sharp in the 11 is on the front straightaway slow. We stay green. The rest of the leaders going. That would have been a disaster for Ericson and just about the rest of the field with 7 cars on the lead lap. Ericson right now needs to gain 10 seconds to get his lead back, his net lead back, as fast as possible.
He's got the fresh tyres to do so, and he's cutting through this traffic very quickly indeed. But that was a close one. Just on the corner of the shot, we saw the 11 machine having a spin, having a half spin at least, managing to save it once more. So Sharp definitely knows how to save one of these cup cars as he continues on. And of course, we got Blixt trying to chase down Ericsson. So Ericsson did gain a bit of time in the pit stop there. Blixt just quite a few cars back actually in that train, as we see some more pitters now. Gunnarsson coming in from the lead.
Oh, in trouble!
Oh, good save. Really good save there. Sliding up wide, but was able to hold on to that. That might have been Johansson in the 52 machine. Gunnarsson, as mentioned, down pit road. Everyone else staying out for now. But wow, that was a huge save. And once more, looking like potential cautions, but we do stay green.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a caution flag. We've now had 2 different incidents this run since most of the leaders pit. There are just 3 cars yet to pit who need a caution. Fredrickson, Homer, and Helmbro. And I don't know how it's going to play out pretty soon. They are at the edge of their fuel tanks. They are hoping and praying there's a caution flag, especially with drivers like Haflidsson already within about 6 seconds of passing them. And the fact they're basically running on fuel-saving trees now.
Yeah, Haflidsson's already gained 2/3 of a lap around here. Such is the pace that he's had. So, I mean, he's going to be miles ahead of them. Obviously, when they come into the pit lane, they're going to take a lot less fuel, but still, it's going to be a big, big run there for the 81, who took that opportunity to go in early, kind of by virtue of him killing the tyres in the first stint, but maybe that's actually the way to do it around here, and it might work out as long as he has the tyres to the end of the race. Still 55 laps to go, though, in this race as Fredrickson comes down pit road.
Had to at this point. Homer and Helmbro pretty much going to be falling pretty soon. I believe we had one driver lose some time. You might notice on the pylon, Gunnarsson falling back from self-mistake. But this should just about close up the window and make things interesting the rest of the way. Helmbro already saying it's pit stop time. Daniel Homer is hoping for a caution.
With these leaders now coming in, of course, this puts Eracingligan back on lead lap as well, due to the position, as we're again Havlicton up into that second place. The battles continue with the 71 and the 37 as they work their way through down in towards turn 1. The 77 of Helmbro comes down pit road. So it's all starting to open up here as we get towards the final 50 laps of this race, where we'll be cutting 5 drivers from the playoffs. But we still need to work out who exactly that is going to be as Homer comes in. So Havlicton, the 81, goes to the front here at Richmond.
And now, how long does it last is the major question. By the way, mention that Gunnarsson had a bit of an issue towards the wall. He's given himself a meatball flight, Cam, from being in the conversation for top 3 to out of the conversation completely. Under green, that's going to be a race killer.
So there's Gunnarsson, who is sitting 6th in the playoffs, 27 points ahead. But with him struggling there, that is going to change things. But of course, the important point is the cars around him and where they're going to be. Because of course he's got Håkan Schott, who's behind him, but then also having a bad day. So it's going to be an interesting one with the points and how they work going in towards Michigan in a couple of weeks' time. Here's the 71 still holding on from the 37 in the background, and there's Eracingligan actually coming in behind. So of course the 24 was leading for so long. Let's see how this went with the 52.
Yeah, this was the closest I think we got to a near caution because of the proximity of cars. Somehow this save wasn't damage at all. I think he just grazed the wall at most, just used it as a saving brake.
That was really good, especially, I mean, you know, if you want to drift like that, you need a lot of steering angle. These cars don't have quite that much, as we're seeing the 2 Force cars swap positions. The 37 not really defending there from the 24, who goes through up into that 4th place. Linus Broström, who's currently just ahead of him, is in 3rd, but I don't think he'll be able to hold on. These fresh tyres are really, really strong around this track. He's going to dive already in towards turn 3 on the brakes. He sends it down towards the apron. The 71 knows that, and he's going to be just letting him pass. But let's have a look at this slide once more. All up into the wall, but just missing it by a couple of inches.
Yeah, that was a little bit nerve-wracking back at the time. But this traffic is still making, I think, some of these drivers nervous because Eracingligan needs to stay green. Havlicton needs a caution, so he's able to get at least the clean air advantage the rest of the way, because we've seen he is dead even up to lap 50 on a run. There's less than 50 laps to go. The map says if there's a yellow, it's going to be difficult for Eracingligan. If it stays green, it's Eracingligan's race to lose.
Oh, it is going to be an interesting one. I mean, we've been green for so long now. We were expecting many, many cautions, but we haven't had one for so long that it's really brought a different strategy to what we thought the race was going to be. And the 81's put himself in a really good place. Are those 6 seconds enough to hold on over the next 46 laps? So that is the all-important bit. He's already, just sliding up there a little bit. And the rear right tire was the Achilles heel for him in that first stint.
Yeah, I can see just trying to keep chill, calm. But there is one thing you're looking over and talking with the teammate is, what's the interval? Where is Eracingligan? Is he going to catch me? Okay, where is he? I got to double check this again. There's a lot of conversation you can see between him and the rest of his team trying to keep that communication key because of how much Eracingligan's knocking the time down in clean space, 2/10 a lap right now.
And it is going to be a hard one to hold on for, I think, for the 81. But it might still confirm him inside those top few positions. The only issue is he was in 2nd place rather nicely as the 71 there of Helmbro diving up the inside of the 71. So it's definitely all changed with the speed of when people have got the tyres. It's been a very, very important factor at this track. But I wonder with Havlicton if he will still end up in that 2nd place like he was halfway through that first stint, or if the likes of someone like Eric Blix might be coming onto him a bit later in the race as well, as Eracingligan is very close to getting down within 5 seconds.
The one thing I keep an eye on, and have been, still keeping an eye on in this one is, though, the fall-off difference. And caution!
Oh, caution comes out just as the 37 of Jesper Eriksson was getting past the 71 of Brewstrom as well. There's Tony Uverdam, who was having such a strong race earlier. He's gone around on the back stretch, and it brings out caution with 41 laps to go. What are the drivers going to do? Do they stay out and keep their track position? Or does someone want to risk going in and get some fresh tyres to the end? We've seen how strong they are. For the likes of Hafliderson, I mean, surely he's going to stay out and keep that track position, but someone in behind comes through on fresher tyres. There's going to be a huge differential on grip in the final part of this race.
Strategy just bit a lot of people, though. There are just 8 cars on the lead lap. But this reason with the caution flag is a little ridiculous. Look at this. Ubinen tries to clear by. He's on the lead lap. 2 lap cars, 3 wide. No.
That is a shame. That big shame for Tony Uverdam, who unfortunately there just reversed into Dan Holmer, I think that is. But he manages to get back going. And that's a big shame. Oh, everyone in the pit lane. Okay, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting every single one in the pit lane, but that is what we've got. And it looks like they're all going to be having those fresh tyres. So this becomes a straight fight to the end. With 40 laps, they can push it pretty hard.
I was about to say, this is what I expected, honestly. You've ran this many laps on the tires, you have to come down. Regardless, there are sets available. Now it's the matter, I don't know if those drivers are going to pit again. For Eric Lundberg, though, I've got questions, and there's my answer. There's no way you stay out on 22 lap old tires and you make it work. For good measure, there was for comparison's sake, at Richmond, a league race for PRL last night. Someone stayed out on 56 lap old tires. Yeah, the car who stayed out on 56 lap old tires did not make it out of turn 2.
Yes, yeah, very good point. To answer with what we were just mentioning, the tyres are a big factor around here, and everyone is choosing to keep on with that. And it makes sense. If everyone comes in as well, it just makes a perfect sense to go on and keep with those fresher tyres. To hold on at a track like this is very, very difficult indeed. We've already seen, I mean, Havliderson, he basically drove around 2 cars who were having a battle. So that is very interesting indeed. So what we've ended up with is, after everything has happened, the top 5 are kind of like the top 5 that we would expect to have in this race situation. So the top drivers in this championship, in this league, always seem to get up towards the front. Havliderson, of course, winner of the previous race, already booked himself in the round of 10 next time around, but he would love to take that win and take that away from another driver, potentially, who's of a different team, the likes of Aracingligan, who is a little bit further back in the championship, but the win will, of course, take him through naturally.
Yeah, this, I think, sets a pretty intriguing table the rest of the way, though. There are 3 drivers that I've noticed throughout the time calling these oval races that have looked solid each time. Flillison, Eriksson, and Eraldson. Very similar sounding names, yes. But I think those 3 are some of your best opportunities for championship drivers right there, because of how they've been able to handle the postseason and how they've been able to drive consistently at the different tracks. Now, next round could be up for grabs, though, because you have Michigan, which is like a super speedway, Cam. Next round, I think, is going to be challenging for that first race before Dover, which will be, like Richmond, a track position race.
I agree. It's an interesting track combination that we have, and drivers, of course, will be loving that, as we have 3 races to go after this one. But how important is it going to be? We've got all of the championship favourites up towards the front, and the 81 is now leading, but also on the same tyres as everyone else, as his chances for this race win have just dramatically increased with this late caution potentially. Or are there going to be more? As the 24 there runs on wide, caution straight away. We only got 2 corners in, and we're already back under the pace track.
A lot of people are having a wave around period there, including several laps down. This is huge for those who took the wave around. Solo, Salander, Fredrickson, Homer, and everybody. That's back in the conversation. Quite simply, I think it might have been the 3rd to last car still fourth to last on the lead lap. Triple one.
That's a big shame. Triple one is Anton Bratberg, who's had some issues there. I mean, that was right into the start of the green flag run. Barely getting through the first couple of corners and already issues, and everyone will come back down and they'll have to chill out once more. So it's going to be about 30 laps to go or so by the time we go back to green flag racing. Let's see how this one's worked out.
Yeah, quite simply. Trying to already catch the field. They're half a field behind. Just loops it. Just simply loops it on old tires. Try to floor it. Yeah, that's not going to make some of the leaders happy, but that's going to help the 81's case.
13 wheels. We see another car drive around. I think that was Jonas Skoglund in that black and white half and half machine who gets to go around, get himself back on the lead lap. So that leaves Johansson in the 52. The driver who just almost scraped the wall. The last driver one lap down. And then it goes to Dennis Scherp, Kenneth Tier, Amelie Fagrel, and Jonas Gunnarsson, who are all 2 laps down. We've got a lot of drivers actually down pit road. Salander, Holmer, Fredriksson, Uvenen, Helmbro, Erling, all on pit road here trying to get those fresher tyres to the end of the race. Yeah.
The thing's going to be, those drivers are going to be on the back foot the rest of the way because the track position, and we only ran half a lap. The main thing for them is they're on the lead lap. Disastrous timing for everything, though, when you think about it for Fredriksson, who was involved in the caution previous. When you talk about drivers needing to pick up points, just about all of them have had this go the wrong way, Cam, if they wanted to sneak away with points. And still, as all of this has gone on, because of how Ullman and Broström, specifically Bjorn Broström, have had this race go, Ken's taken 2 spots away. That's a lot more helpful for his chances.
Yeah, and for the top 10, we have Gunnarsson, Håkan Schott, and Anton Ullman all inside the top 10 currently, and they are down inside the final 5 positions. And then we have Marcus Hogman, who's P11, 17 points off, but he's up there in P7 in this race. So we'll try and get, when the race finishes, we'll try and get the results to you as soon as we can with how this is going to shape up with the top 10. But it will be down to some individual points, I'm sure, in some of these positions where their drivers end up. There's Linus Broström, who's looking fairly calm, actually, in his position in P5.
I'd honestly say bored, because if you look at the facial expressions, it's like, let's go racing. Can we race? Can we race? I will give credit to... Well. I want to go up to Michael Flitterson for a second, because throughout the day, we've had a very quiet commentary or broadcast chat for those watching along. Our first commenter of the day, Michael Flitterson. Look, Mom, I'm winning.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing when the drivers start typing
both.
In the stream chat.
It's both.
Yeah, because it's cool that they're obviously trying to interact, but it's also, you need to be driving the car and not looking at your keyboard, albeit we are on the pace track.
I hope he's enjoying... I can't tell if he's eating licorice or a microphone.
That was a vape, I'm pretty sure. We've seen him doing it before, just getting the last puffs in there before we go back to green flag racing. We got 2 corners last time. Hopefully we go a bit further, as there's going to be 30 laps to go here at Richmond. And he gets the jump with his teammate Eric Blix as well. The 24 is left for dead a little bit on the outside and might be losing this place down the inside of turn 1. It looks like the 95 has worked his way up into that second place, and the teammates working well together as everyone is on the same tyres to the end, remember. So this is just a free-for-all, and it's just basically get the passes done and hold on to them.
Just has to try and run away. If you're Flitterson, just keep it calm. Your teammates making it very difficult. Oh, that was near contact. That was a bit of a squeeze, and that's a terrible run. Oh my goodness, what did Flitterson just do?
He slid all the way through 1 and 2, and oh my word. And also, we also there have Lundberg, I think, that is spinning in the midfield as everyone's going for this. And the 81, who's in such a strong position, is now going to have hurt tyres there. But also, look at this for the race lead, the 24 round the outside. We've got Jesper Eriksson with the damage now in 3rd place, side by side. The leaders go. The caution does come out, and the 24 had the lead there. But the 81 almost bidding it That is why I was saying shouldn't be typing in the YouTube chat and focus on the driving, because that could have been absolutely devastating.
Yeah, Zach Eracingligan, the cause of caution, that is probably going to be end of competition for the front for him. But that's the ultimate kibosh that you can do is, hey, I'm winning. Immediately send it so hard you mess up the restart, and what is a near perfect opportunity for you to sweep around, and you just launch it. Now, for Zach Eracingligan, he did the same thing, but in the middle of the pack. That's much worse because nowhere to go for some of those full speed on the second line.
Oh, yes, Alander rode the wall pretty much to avoid, and then Lundberg, I think it was, who's now down pit road, not able to avoid. But I mean, I'd love to see a replay of Haflidsson. I mean, he was sliding for so long, already from the entry of one, just went up and up and up and up and up and up into the barrier on the exit of two. That was a long slide. And for a driver going for the championship, trying to put a run together, winning the previous race, that was almost catastrophic. Let's see this from the onboard.
We now have a second reply, just F. Quite simply, he's lucky he didn't end the race right there.
What a save that was.
That's called missing your braking point and going so fast into the corner, you have to save at the whole corner.
That was a huge save. He didn't, he did the right thing. He didn't overcorrect. He didn't just slam on the brakes. He did what he could to keep that car in balance with all of those steering wheel corrections and was able just about to hold on. Is this going to be in the slow-mo? Look, it's going to be left, right, left, right, left, right as he tries to keep that car in check. But you could so easily just full lock to the right, slam it in the wall, or easily just hit the brakes too much and the rear comes around. But he did just enough. You can see him try to keep it out of the barrier. Just scrapes the wall, puts him back in check. And he did a very good job to keep his race-winning hopes alive.
I don't know if they're as high as they were before, because I think being the leader is going to make the highest odds. But he jinxed himself. That's all I can really say. He jinxed himself. And did you just throw your phone in response?
It's because it's where I put my water bottle down. I take sips of water, and then it just gets in the way. So then I move it and I'll drop it. My bad.
Have you thought of getting a second second deck for your desk for this?
I might have to. I might have to invest as the winter break, or not really winter break, summer break in this championship comes into action. And one thing that I've just noticed, all of the top 10 are all playoff drivers as well, Justin. So there's no one just yet that is going to be spicing things up and taking things away. But what we're going to see then is potentially some big change around, because I've noticed Marcus Hogman, he's dropped down from his position that he had earlier. He was trying to take some points away, from being outside. And there's just some other drivers in there trying to do some things. But I just wonder, I don't think we're going to be getting any major things happening. Oh, is this an updated points as we stand? So it does look like Marcus Hogman from P11 will get himself up inside the top 10.
I'm curious on how this is all going to go. I am in that grouping of, for Marcus Hogman, this is a possible steal opportunity. If he survives, it gets interesting. That's all I'll say.
It certainly will, as we have just over 20 laps to go. The nice and cuddly by Team Superior is certainly getting aggressive, and let's see how this one ends. We've got Aracingligan and his teammate, the 37, Jesper Eriksson, with damage on the front, but he's doing a good job up there, sliding wide a little bit. Is Eric Blix there? There's contact in behind, I think, with the 81 there of Haflidsson, potentially just losing the rear end just slightly as they work their way through turn 3 and 4, and this is going to be aggressive.
I don't blame him. He wants positions back, even if they're teammates. Give me my spots back right here, right now. But you have to be smart on this. If you just go aggressive to be aggressive, that's where you end up having thousands of dollars of damages from a car accident. Or in this case, a race accident.
And it is getting to that point where the drivers will know the playoff positions are all important as well as the position just on the track. Got to be looking at the drivers around you as the two Dans, Holmer and Solo, go side by side. Their battle for P8. Solo got ahead momentarily, but Holmer is holding on in the 78 machine. We look back from your race leader as they come down to the yellow line nicely in the corners and go back up to the wall. But on the inside there is at the 81 actually diving it down in his teammates. So he's still got some speed in that car.
At the very least, I think there's recognition that Vlodison's the better of the two on the short run. There is a good chance of Vlodison could try and win this after the 25 laps led. I will say this, how Ericsson's in this conversation still, I don't understand. He hasn't gotten any repairs done since the first caution.
And he's got the speed. It's amazing. I mean, we know he's probably got the slightest edge on the drivers in this championship with how competitive he was in the regular season, of course, being the regular season champion. But oh, look at the slide on the rear end in the dirt here as well. He's got to be careful with that. But certainly, it's what a job he's doing just in this season.
That comes straight up to confidence under the braking. That damage absolutely killing him straight line speed, but he's been making up for it with the straight into the corner entry marks. What they've kept an eye on is because he's got that front nose, he's able to technically carry a bit more speed through the corner, but not able to get the pull down the straights. It's a battle of, do I ever get the car fixed or not? It's too late to get the car fixed, so you made your bed. It's time to get nice and cuddly with your broken race car.
But it's working, to be honest. I mean, if you add up all of the seconds and the positions that he would have lost had he done the damage, it looks like it's going to be working as we're inside the final 15 laps of this race. And of the round of 15, 5 drivers will be eliminated from the championship race. It looks like we pretty much know who it's going to be, such as the gaps and unfortunately some of the incidents that happened at the previous race are already making it very difficult for some of the drivers to progress. But the order of the places going into the final 3 races of the season is going to be very important indeed. Here comes Vlodison, winner of the previous race, trying to get it 2 in a row. And how important could it be if he takes it away from one of the Force drivers too?
Yeah, that's my huge question too, is can he get a run alongside in the first place? Lap traffic, I think, might play a huge factor here because there's a wave of them quickly now having to converge. Lundberg already the first of that layer done.
But look at Vlodison. I think he's got this, but we saw this in that first stint. He stayed in that dirty air too long and he killed the tyres. But with it being such a short stint, maybe he doesn't have to worry about that one as he's slightly lower than Ericsson, coming off 4 there, trying to make it work. He's getting closer and closer. Not enough to dive it this time around, but he's surely going to be working a move very, very soon.
Give him a little bit of break. Oh, too much of a break, if anything, just to stabilize the front nose on exit again. He's making the same mistake, getting loose, trying to set it so hard. He's making the car just dance around and bobble, bobble, bobble. That's not going to get the job done.
It certainly isn't, as Solo, after trying to get past Holmer for P8, has now been overtaken by Helmer, and Helmer has actually got Holmer as well, so the battles continue a little bit further down, but for the lead and for the top 3, they are also going, maybe not side by side like that, but they are pushing each other to the limit as they get some more lap traffic to try and get through as you go on to 156, just 10 laps to go after this one.
And now this is worse timing traffic. Have to get hard off the gas. Dennis Sherp letting him on by. That nearly killed a Vlodison. If anything, it helped Ericson.
Certainly did. Another car length or so was put into that gap. 4 tenths it remains as we come across the line with 10 laps remaining. It is getting to crunch time now. Vlodison is definitely probably the fastest of this top 3. But once more, he needs to try and find the way through. Maybe this is it, up the inside. Can the 37 bring it down to cover that one off? Yes, he can. So the 81 is trying to do his best, but he's really sliding around in that turbulent air. Maybe this is the one in towards turn 1. No, Ericsson covers it off, going tight and holding on to that.
I don't know how long the 81 waits here, because if he wants a shot for the race win, he needs to go now. Looks like he's going to try it outside instead, since the inside isn't working.
Can he get the up and under? He went a little bit wide to try and get the run on the front stretch. Once again, the 37 comes down onto the apron. Potentially it's going to be, no, he backs out of that. The 81 goes through. And is this going to be potentially a run for the lead? No, the 37 does the up and under, and he manages to come back. The 81 went up a little bit too high in turn 2, and the 37 is able to hold on the inside. And this is good for Ericsson. It opens up another half zone. Contact is made. The 81's put in the wall, and that could be big for the championship if he's able to continue or not. I think he might be able to do so. But contact again for the 37 this race.
Yeah, that's not going to be making friends the rest of the way there. That is not a pretty move, to say the very least, on the bump. That was an aggressive send in the first place, Cam, because the aggressive block. But the counterpoint is, Flitison had the established line, and he's got damage. He is done.
The only good news for the 81 is that he's already locked in to the playoffs. But of course, the points that come with it for the positions as well is going to be very crucial in this race. So we'll see how that one works out. Hogman and Fredriksson are batting now for the top 5. And of course, those two drivers both outside. Let's see this one again. Contact is made. The 81, huge hit into the wall.
There was a tiny pinch, but at the same time, it's the driver underneath's job to make sure they don't make the contact like that. In that case, Ericsson made it, and now he's trying to block another one. He's trying to block an aero contact car, and now he's making more paint trading.
Now these guys need to be careful. How much contact do they want to make? What sort of atmosphere do they want to have going into the final 3 races? But it looks like the 95 should have this one stuck up the inside. But we're going to be coming on to just a couple of laps to go. The huge side also for the 37. He's really trying to put the power down. But out of the final corner, we're going to have just 3 laps to go in this race. And the 24, who's got pole position, who's led pretty much all of the race on the track. And he's going to be having to bring that home with a 2-second lead.
Yeah, Ericsson from the get-go just outright dominated this race. Had the track position for the get-go. Has been one of the best, in fact, the best long run, you can argue, today. Just has to drop it home for another 1.5 miles to be able to get this job done. Just needs it to stay green.
Certainly does. There's Bjorn Broström with so much damage to his 41 machine. But the 24 is looking nice coming onto the back straightaway. Just a lap and a half to go. Blix isn't closing him down. And to be honest, he's held this race nicely. Oh, here's the one, though. Teammate of the 95. Is he going to be getting involved, trying to slow him down just a little bit? Will it be enough for the 95 to catch up as we hit the final lap?
Don't think that's going to be the major factor here. There it is quickly. But for Ericsson, kept it clean all race. Didn't trade a single lick of paint. Outright domination.
What a season this is turning out to be for the 24. Slowly but surely, he comes across the line, though, and he's working himself in towards the fight for the championship with the victory today, locking himself into the round of 10 and taking the victory with it. And there is going to be some talks after the race. Contact with the 81, the 37, multiple incidents tonight. The fireworks go out for 4s, but there'll certainly be some discussions after the race and with what's the atmosphere between the drivers is going to be like. We know the prizes on the line is there in front of them, but of course tonight there was certainly some incidents on the track.
Yeah, tempers absolutely flared, but at the very least, our race winner lived up to the race name. Kept it nice, kept it calm, kept it soft. And guess what? Not getting any of the contact all race ends up being the winning strategy, like I said.
And it's one of those things where you were mentioning earlier, you sort of make your own friends, you make your enemies, etc. The 24 has done nothing to no one over the season in that regard. Of course, Ericsson's got a big name on his back, winning so many races, winning the regular championship. But the 24 has just been there consistently over the course of the season. And coming into this was 5th place, 36 points above the cut line and 19 off Jesper Eriksson. And will, of course, be gaining some points there. Has the win under his name as well. And I think is putting together a championship run. Let's see how they finish, though. at the end of the race. Look at all of the playoff drivers inside the top 9. Aronson winning by 1.2 seconds in the end. Blixen, Ericsson round out your top 3. Linus Broström there's in 4th, and Marcus Hogman from P11, 17 points off the cut line, might have just locked himself in. And Oscar Fredriksson as well as P14. It might be just not enough. We'll see when the results come through. Peter Helmberg as well from a disappointing qualifying gets P7. Then we have the 2 Dans, Homer and Solo in P8 and 9, and Solander rounds out your top 10. Then we see Erling inside your top 11 with Skogan, Uvelen, Johansson, Michael Havlidsen in the end, P15 a lap down with the fastest lap of the race. He'll get an extra point. But fortunately for him, was already locked in after his win last time out. Zachrison, Tyr, Fagerl, Gunnarsson and Scherp round out your top 20. So Gunnarsson, P6 coming into this. He's going to be obviously losing some decent points there, as there's your top 20. Then we have Lundberg, Uhrmann, Broström, Bratberg, Schott and Holmbaum, who did not take the start of this race, rounding out your 26 car field here. As of course we thank Team Superior for sponsoring this race. Nice and cuddly it certainly wasn't, and that of course is was the joke with the name, which is what we like to see. Let's get some drivers though into the comms box and get an interview to see just how the drivers are feeling after that. And we bring in the number 24, Alex Aronson. And Alex, you basically led most of that race, apart from the sort of the off strategy we had with Michael Havlidsen. You must have been really, really happy with your pace today.
Yeah, I really was happy with the pace today. I had good pace all week, so I was confident coming into the race. Of being able to get a good finishing position, barring any unfortunate cautions. But thankfully, the green flag cycle worked out okay for me. So, yeah,
it's looking good for you on the strategy. You stayed out a lot longer than Michael. He got a big undercut on you, but you're chasing him down. And I'm sure even if it stayed green all the way to the end, were you confident that you were able to overtake him before those last couple of cautions?
Yeah, to be honest, I actually missed the tip hitted early. But anyway, if it had gone green, I'm fairly confident I would have been able to get back to him, and then with the newer tires, being able to pass him as well. But I mean that's last caution came out at, or not the last caution, but the one where he took over the lead came out at a bit of an unfortunate point in time for me.
Yeah, definitely didn't stay green to the end. We had those couple of cautions. What did you think, though, when you saw the 81 sliding up towards the barrier coming through 1 and 2?
Well, I thought this is my chance to pass him. And I just had to take it, even though I had Eric on my inside there. But that was my chance to take the lead.
Yeah, certainly was a great race for you. And now, obviously with the win behind your name, you're already in a fairly decent place in the championship, in the playoff standings. Do you think you have enough to take the championship in 3 races' time?
Well, that remains to be seen. I mean, if I can just make it to Homestead, I'm pretty confident I can have a decent pace there as well. And obviously, it's nice to win, but the most important thing today was to get the 6 playoff points and to have that extra bit of cushion coming into the final round.
And it was certainly a great race for you. So congratulations, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Next, of course, we will move into a driver of the 95 who had some a very interesting race. You were sort of up and down those positions. You had a lot of drivers around you, and then in that final few laps, of course, you saw the contact in front of you, and you were able to get yourself up there. What did you think when you saw the 81 being pushed up into the wall there?
Well, of course, it's sad to see my teammate get pushed out of the way. I haven't watched the replays. I can't say what happened, but it was a interesting race for sure. We had a lot of really long run speed, so I was kind of sad about not having a proper long run towards the end, because I know Marathon is really quick, but in the last 10 laps of a really long run, I'm always gonna have a few tens. I mean.
Yeah, certainly you and your teammates are looking very strong this season. Do you think there was anything you could have done to get Alex today? Because he seemed to just have that little bit of extra speed. Of course, got the pole position, led for most of the race. But you're still looking strong. But do you think you could have had that last little bit?
Yeah, maybe if we ran next gen yesterday and not Gen 4. But yeah, overall practice, I think Horizon does some good preparations for the races. I hope it does at least. But yeah, of course, like preparation is probably where I fall short in most cases.
Yes, 13. But we go to the round of 10 next. You're still in a very, very strong position. We go to Michigan. Very, very different track to what we had today. What do you think we can expect there?
I don't know really. Depends on how the race starts out. If we start out clean, it's usually pretty messy towards the end. Or we have a big mess in the start and end up with long runs. I hope for the later one. Because I think I kind of figured out how to make the tires last in the long run on this car.
Yes, that sounds good. And yeah, we wish you luck for that race and the round of 10 in general. See you next time.
Yes, yeah.
And then lastly, we'll bring in Jesper Eriksson, the 37 regular season champion, currently, of course, in a very, very strong position. But today, Jesper, you had a lot of things going on there. I guess let's start with, losing your front bumper at the early parts of the race, a bit of contact. How do you see it from your perspective?
That was completely my fault. I think I touched the yellow line coming out of turn 2 and just did a half pirouette, and then understandably someone, I think, clipped my front with the splinter away. So yeah, my mistake, my fault. So not much to say.
But despite having that damage, your pace was really good. So did the car feel any different without the front bumper?
It did feel quite different. And I was in the pit. I thought, well, I don't have front spoilers, so I won't have too much front downforce, which will make my car quite understeer, which worked perfectly for me here. So it was kind of a setup choice at the end, and not to repair the damage. But I did feel like when fighting Eric and all of them that I did not have enough grip on the front end to really put on a fight, just block them.
Yeah, and then. So as the race progressed, you got yourself up position by position. You were fighting Linus Broström for quite a lot. Then you managed to get yourself, up inside that top 5. And then coming towards, obviously, the final caution, everyone went back onto the same tires. Did you think you had a hope of winning the race at the end? Or was it more about just securing the win for Alex?
For me, it was more prioritizing winning or securing the win for Alex. I didn't really want to fight for the win myself. Because I know in this position I will be locked in, and I don't know how Alex is in the playoffs. So for me, it was just kind of take it safe, be relaxed. Just my last race was absolutely catastrophic. And same with Linus. I didn't really want to attack anyone. I know Linus is a really, really good driver, so I just wanted to stay behind and do what he did, because he's been kind of a mentor for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess the last sort of point of contact was with the 81 there with a couple of laps to go. I mean, it's a difficult situation when you're battling side by side, but just how hard to, how close to the limit were you pushing, trying to keep him behind?
I think you saw all the switchbacks. So I was pushing quite hard. I just wanted to block him, not to kind of to be attack Alex. I just wanted to keep him as much behind as possible, which in the end I succeeded with, because we did touch. I don't want to say too much about the contact, but I feel like it was a racing incident. But yeah, it was tight racing. Me and Michael always have some good racing that kind of always ends up in contact, which is not nice. But our racing is always pretty fun.
Yeah, you do really push it to the limit. But we go into the round of 10 now. How are you feeling with that? Because obviously we dropped 5 drivers, but just the way it worked out with the points, we kind of knew, who at least a few of those drivers are going to be. But now with the round of 10, we're going to be losing 6 drivers going towards the final race. So what can you do to ensure that you are up inside that top 4?
Oh man, it's Michigan and Dover, 2 tracks I'm not really that keen of, so it's going to be quite interesting. But I do have quite a big points lead with the playoff points, so that's going to be quite relaxing for me, just kind of be just ahead and see what I can do to advance to the top 5 in the end.
Are you going to have to try and prioritize, the stage or something like that in Michigan, or is it just going to be all out trying to win the race still and confirming your place that way?
I still want to win, of course. I think I have like 8 or 9 wins all through all my career in the old series. So I want to break that 10 wins. So of course I'm going to try to win. So it's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it certainly will. So we wish you luck for the final 3 races, and we'll see if you can put a championship together.
Thank you very much, boys.
And as the interviews progressed, we've tried to get you the results of the round of 15 to see the 10 drivers working their way through in towards the round of 10. Michigan and Dover coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Before we get to Homestead for the final as well. Richmond has been a very interesting race indeed, and here is what it's left us. So Aronson and Haflidsson get the wins, and it's going to be Ericsson, Blixt, Broström, Gunnarsson, Holmer, Solo, Ullman, and Fredriksson, who are into the top 10. So Horgenschott, with all those issues today, by 1 point misses out, and also Marcus Hogman by 1 point. So that was a big move. At the end of the race, Fredriksson got himself past Marcus Hogman, and that was what he needed to secure himself inside the top 10. And Anton Ullman, by 1 extra point, also secures that. So that could have very easily changed things around. So that just shows you how tight it is. Despite there being a 17-point gap between 10 and 11 coming into this, it's just 1 point. That means Horgenschott and Marcus Hogman miss out, along with Skoglund, Helmbro, and Robert Eriksson. So we have our 10 as we go in towards Michigan and Dover, and that will continue on in a couple of weeks' time. We can't wait to see what the action is going to be. So that's the 11th of April, 124 laps around Michigan. And that is going to be a very interesting one indeed. We thank you for watching, and we'll, of course, see you next time on the 11th of April. It's been myself, Cameron Roger, Justin Prince alongside me, Dane Bed on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And until Circuit Zandvoort next week, back for the Formula Series, we wish you a very warm goodbye.